Okay, so we talked a little bit about classic holiday movies, Dad. I would love it. If you would tell us a little bit, if you have like stories of your childhood of these movies, or just kind of how were they part of, the landscape of your upbringing.
Well, okay. Well, sure. So Miracle on 34th Street, when I was a kid, um, and I'm 71 years old now, so that gives you a
No.
sense of what we're talking about in terms of time frame. So early 60s. One of the movies that was, and this is pre-streaming, pre-cable, if you wanted to watch something, it was on a television channel at a particular time.
Yep.
And if you wanted to watch it, you need to set aside that time because they weren't going to wait for you. And and there were commercials and all that other stuff. So you took bathroom breaks whenever the commercial was on and all that. But one of the movies that was on every year when I was growing up in South Carolina in the 1960s uh, was uh, was Miracle on 34th Street. And it begins at the Thanksgiving Day parade in New York City and the competition between Macy's and Gimbel's and that kind of stuff. And the Santa Claus, who is a part of all of that. And it was always
Oh.
shown in the early, when I was a kid, I always remember seeing this on Thanksgiving Day, which it does compete with the football games and stuff like this, but maybe it was on in the evenings after the games were over. Because they had, because NFL plays football on Thanksgiving Day,
Yeah.
still does. So, so we usually watched that, and we did it in with my family, and usually we had an extended family that lived in the area, and so we would all sort of gather at these kinds of times, and Thanksgiving was one of those times. And at some point during the day, we would watch this movie, and the people went in and out and talked through it, and did all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, and I think some of the kids actually played the roles and mimicked the words, but that was always sort of a fun thing, and that was when I was sort of 10, 11, 12 years old,
So
and
when
it was
did
kind of cool.
when did Miracle on 34th Street come out? Do you recall?
1947. So
1947.
it was around. I mean, it'd been around for a while,
And it
but it was
was
certainly more timely than it is today, obviously.
and then so when did It's a Wonderful Life come into the picture?
It's Wonderful Life wasn't viewed as a good movie initially. It
Is it
didn't do
Frank
very
Capra?
well.
Is it a Frank Capra
It's
who?
a Frank Capra movie, and it had stars galore, and
Yeah.
it's a terrific story. But when it was released, it wasn't viewed as something that was a particularly good film, and it got overlooked for any awards and all this kind of for most of the awards
Hmm.
anyway. And and it wasn't a holiday favorite at that time, and it wasn't really necessarily viewed as a Christmas movie at that point. And so it took a number of years before that sort of happened. But that began again in the 1960s. They began to show it during the run up to Christmas. And that's where it found the audience on television. And there was even a version of it that was colorized, which was just as tacky as you can imagine. But
It seems wrong.
it is. It's totally wrong. But this was something that Ted Turner did when he bought this whole raft of films and he colorized a bunch of the old black and white ones, thinking that, people alive today wanted to see a color film.
Right. Right.
And and so they just,
Sure. It makes
demolished
sense.
it.
Sounds
Well,
logic, but yeah.
it sounds logical, but the result of this was it was sort of washed out and not very attractive. So the black and white version is still better and superior. But it's that point when it started to be watched pretty regularly, and then it was sort of accepted and embraced as this holiday movie, and it tells this wonderful story. And everybody's life is like this. You don't know if you weren't in the mix. I mean, that's what it is all about. He At one point he realizes, or he says, I'd be better off I never lived.
Hmm.
So an angel comes and tells him, here's what would have happened.
And
And
shows him.
some yeah, and showed him this, that his brother would have died when he fell through the ice on a lake because he wasn't there to pull him out. And a variety of things like this. And Mr. Potter, going back to your Pottersville story, it's a direct connection. Who is sort of the overlord of real estate property in the town, would have taken over the whole town and turned it into sort of this backwater.
Turned it into
And
Pottersville.
yeah, basically. And if Jimmy Stewart hadn't been there to stop him. So all of that makes it a film that sort of brings you uh, to ask the question about yourself. How would things be different if you weren't in the mix?
Yeah.
And the reality is everybody does make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's the message of the film.
I can see it touches your heart, Dad, just talking about it. I
It
can feel
does.
it. Yep. Well,
I get
okay,
I get a little choked up
get a
sometimes.
get a little touched. Tell us when the last time everybody watched It's a Wonderful Life, because now that we're talking about it, I want to go watch it, and it's really been years, and I do recall it is definitely one of those ones that came on TV, just like Wizard of Oz. Like, it was on,
Right.
and it came on, and it was like a thing, and
Yeah.
you only
Everybody gathers to watch it.
yeah, because you only get to watch it, maybe that one time a year. So yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so I think then any more on kind of like nostalgic stuff from your childhood or young adulthood?
Well, I think those are the ones that stand out for me. Um, the The Bishop's Wife was also one that was aired when I was a kid growing up regularly in the Christmas season, and it tells a good story. There's no doubt about that, and the update's a good one as well. So you could watch either one of them and get the message. But that's the first time seeing that movie was the first time I remember seeing sort of animated special effects.
Oh,
Because there's a scene where Cary Grant, who's the angel, is supposed to organize the files in the office. And so he just sort of waves his arms, and you see these files start flying around and going into folders and stuff like that, which when I was a kid, I thought that's really cool. I hadn't seen anything like that.
yeah.
You saw a lot of that later on in sort of Disney movies and stuff like that, but it wasn't common in those earlier films.
When did A Bishop's Wife come out?
I want to say late 40s. I could be
Okay.
wrong on that.
Okay. And the remake is A Preacher's Wife. We also star-studded. Denzel Washington
Right.
plays the angel. Whitney Houston is the preacher's wife.
Right.
Courtney P. Vance is the preacher.
Right.
Jennifer Lewis, I think, is Whitney Houston's mom in this. And
Mhm.
I also think that is Loretta Devine also in this movie? It doesn't matter. It's a full, it's like a
Yeah.
a great ensemble. Um